Welcome to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes, the podcast with hot takes on food media.
We interview popular chefs and food personalities, sample all kinds of food media, and try cooking challenges in our own kitchens.
Let's dig in. Hey, it's Justine.
And it's me, Meg. Welcome back to another episode of Pod Appétit, where we cook themed recipes every month and chat about the latest food media we've been consuming. It is still the month of July. It's summertime, baby. And we are here to talk about July's themes. July 4th, Independence Day, of course. Chocolate Day, July 7th. National Macaroni and Cheese Day, July 14th. Celebrating all things birthday because our very own podcast celebrated its 4th birthday on July 15th. July 28th, National Hamburger Day. And National Blueberry Month.
Blueberry.
Blueberry.
That's an old internet thing for those of us who are old.
Veruca Salt would be proud. No, not Veruca Salt. Who's the blueberry girl in Willy Wonka?
Violet.
Violet Beauregard.
Violet, you're turning violet. Such good picks this July. This is, I think, our best month ever.
Absolutely. What have you got for us this continuing
right
July?
Nom, 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 nom. Well, for Chocolate Day, I made dark chocolate hemp energy bites by Minimalist Baker, and anyone who's been here long enough knows that I love balls.
That's what she said.
I'd be making balls all the time if I could. And so these are a delicious and good midday snack when I particularly need that boost at 4:30 in the afternoon working, trying to get to the 6 o'clock.
You sound like an advertisement. Do you need extra energy?
I'm really trying to sell these balls, Meg. Okay. So one thing is I subbed pecans for walnuts because I can't have walnuts right now, but the rest of the ingredients are dates, cocoa powder, hemp seeds, salt, almond butter, and coconut oil. You pulse the dates in the food processor first till it gets to be nice and gooey. Set that aside and then do your nuts, but just make sure you don't turn your nuts into a nut butter. Add everything back in, pulse some more until you have a moist dough, and then refrigerate that dough for at least 10 minutes. Or like me, go and do something else and then remember, come back and be like, oh yes.
Oh, my balls.
My balls.
My balls are too cold.
You scoop them into balls, roll, and then you can roll them in hemp seeds or cocoa powder. I like them both ways, but the cocoa powder outside made them a little more melty texture in your mouth. So good stuff.
I did have a question about texture. Explain the texture a little bit more for me.
I will say chewy nutty.
Everything's an innuendo.
Starting us out strong this episode. We are literally 3 minutes in.
We just can't help ourselves. I think these look great. They look like fancy little truffles. I was going to ask what the seeds were because I could tell that they weren't sesame seeds, but I didn't know what they were. So I'm assuming these are the hemp seeds that you roll them in.
Yes.
These look great.
And hemp seeds are so good for you. They're full of omega-3s.
Yeah, I like these. I think they look very tasty. I like what you've done with the setting of the photo. I've seen you've sort of emulated the pink background that Minimalist Baker has.
I did that on accident. I didn't realize it until I posted it today to you.
Had you made these before? I know you make a lot of recipes by the Minimalist Baker.
I don't think I didn't make these ones in particular, but I have made other energy bites before. Mm-hmm. Usually ones that are like oat-based, so like oats, chocolate chips, peanut butter. They're all generally swappable, but these ones in particular, I hadn't made yet, but I had pinned previously, and literally I searched my Pinterest board for chocolate, and these came up, and I was like, yes!
Awesome.
Pinterest, I'm still using it. That's the tagline.
That's a good advertisement. Pinterest, some of us are still using it.
Should change my career. Going into advertising now.
Yeah, they look very chocolatey. Perfect for chocolate day.
Yeah, but they're not like sugary, you know?
Mm-hmm.
A+, make them. You'll like them. Kids will like them too. I don't know. That was not a good advertisement.
Back to the drawing board.
All right, Meg, what do you have?
I'm still celebrating the 4th of July over here. I made a family favorite, a family tradition, 4th of July pie. This is the pie of many names. It's also called red, white, and blue pie, or I've seen it called no-bake triple berry pie.
Oh.
This was originally a Jell-O recipe, so it was in some magazine as a Jell-O recipe. I wasn't able to find the original recipe to link to, but I did find a Betty Crocker recipe that's very similar. So that'll be what's in the show notes and what's on our Substack, the Betty Crocker no-bake triple berry pie. But I really changed up this recipe this year because one of the key components, like I mentioned, is Jell-O, and Jell-O has gelatin. I'm trying to avoid gelatin because I'm trying to eat vegetarian. So I thought to myself, how can I make this family tradition recipe but make it vegetarian? So I decided to swap the gelatin for agar. And let me just say, I apologize in advance if I don't say agar correctly. I looked up before this recording how to pronounce it, and I just left more confused than I started. So I'm going to stick with agar. Please don't come after me. The basis of this recipe is fresh strawberries, fresh raspberries, and fresh blueberries, and these are set in your gel. So in the original recipe, it's Jell-O. I used agar flakes here. You pour it into a graham cracker crust. Since it's no bake, you just put it in the fridge to set up, and then you serve it with fresh whipped cream. So that's where you get your red, white, and blue. Agar flakes are interesting. I found a lot of conflicting information online about how much you should use proportionally to gelatin, and also there's agar powder versus agar flakes. What I have are agar flakes, and also if you're not familiar with agar, it's derived from algae, and it has a firming gelatin-like texture like Jell-O does. So I had agar flakes. I substituted it for 1 tablespoon of agar flakes per 1 cup of liquid. And that seemed to be a good ratio. That ended up working out for me. But in the original recipe, you get a lot of the flavor of the pie from the Jell-O itself because you use a packet of raspberry flavored Jell-O. So I asked myself, well, how am I going to get the flavor in here if I don't have the Jell-O packet? So usually what you do with the recipe is you heat up water and cornstarch and sugar. But instead of just water, I heated up water with a lot of blueberry juice. So it was actually mostly blueberry juice with a little bit of water, and then the sugar, the cornstarch, and the agar flakes. And that's what I heated up on the stovetop, and that was the basis for my gel. It worked out really well. It cooked down a little bit more than I anticipated, so I could have had a little bit more of the gel filling. So that's the one thing that I would adjust making this again. But overall, it turned out great. It set up exactly like it should have. It was firm without being too gummy. That's the thing that you can run into with agar, is that it's very easy to use too much, and then you get a very rubbery, very chewy end result. But I thought this was a very nice consistency. And it's a nice summer pie because it's very fresh. You serve it from the fridge, so it's cool. You put the nice, cool, sweetened whipped cream on top. I just think it's a great pie for the summer and for 4th of July.
It's so interesting. I don't think I've ever seen a Jell-O pie like this before.
Yeah, it's great. It's really easy, and the original recipe, if you do use Jell-O, is even easier.
I'm just saying that because I'm like, I don't think I've grown up with like Jell-O pie products like other people I know have. I know you and like Amanda. So every time you guys use like Jell-O, I'm like, oh, or like not Jell-O, like agar and things like that, you know?
Totally. There's another red, white, and blue Jell-O pie that's 3 layers of Jell-O, but it's just straight Jell-O pie. So it's like red layer Jell-O, white layer Jell-O, blue layer Jell-O.
That's a lot of Jell-O.
It's a lot of Jell-O. it's all Jell-O all the way down.
Jesus, I just want to jiggle it. I just want to take that little plate that you have in your picture and go wubba wubba wubba
Yes.
wubba.
It's not super jiggly. It's not like those commercials, but maybe it would be if I used more gel filling.
Nice. Did anybody else partake of this pie with you?
Yes, my whole family did, including my nephews, who were very put out because they did not have 4th of July pie on the 4th of July because they were on vacation. They were doing a little road trip, and apparently they had complained about it. But then I was like, hey, kids, look, it's not the 4th of July, but I have 4th of July pie. And they were like, yay. And it was a big hit. And they are very picky eaters. And despite them being picky eaters, they were totally fine with the agar. So...
Wow, Meg is going for best auntie ever.
Yes, it's always my goal to be cool aunt. That is 100% my goal 100% of the time.
Yes. Your plating, your pie, it just totally reads summertime fun. Like,
gotta have that gingham.
America. Yes, America. It looks gorgeous and looks so successful. I would have never been able to tell that, like, you just sort of winged it, you know, in terms of like taking one recipe and adapting it.
I will say I did not wing it. I actually did a test run of the gel filling the day before because I was like, I can't ruin all this fresh fruit if these proportions don't work out. So I did the opposite of wing it. I like tested the heck out of it.
Science.
I felt very Claire Saffet. So I was like, okay, it's gourmet makes time. It's time to make this recipe my own.
Even better. Even better.
I will say, though, stay tuned for more adventures in agar because I had mentioned before a big disaster that I had. And it was an agar-related disaster, and that'll be coming your way in August. That's a little teaser.
My God. Edge of my seat. You know I love disasters.
It's a big one.
I'm so hyped.
All right, what do you got for us next?
Story time. So about 3 weeks ago, I had to shift some food plans because Ravi got gum surgery.
Oh, no.
And he had, and still right now has, stitches in his mouth. So he was told to eat, quote, soft foods.
I knew someone who had cadaver gums
Ew.
grafted into her mouth.
This was not that. Ew.
He doesn't have dead people zombie gums?
No.
Okay,
No,
well, I'm
no.
glad to hear that.
Gross. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm trying to talk about food here.
I'm sorry, I've turned the whole episode.
Okay. So now, like, as you know, I already have my restrictive diet this month for my food sensitivities, and now everything's gonna be, pureed as well? So, anywho, I made a soup with all our crunchy veggies I had, so instead of roasting them. So this one I'm categorizing them under, fresh veg, seasonal veg. I made a soup. I made 7 vegetable and, quote, cheese soup by Oshi Glows. In it is 1 large onion, 2 garlic cloves, 1 cup of celery, 1 cup of carrots, 6 cups of broccoli, 2 cups of sweet potato, 2 cups of squash. The recipe calls for delicata, but we had acorn. It worked out all good. So then there's 5.5 cups of veggie broth, 3 to 5 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, and some salt, acid, heat, cayenne pepper, salt, lemon juice. Basically, all the veg gets sauteed for a little bit in your Dutch oven, and then you add in the broth and low boil everything till it is fork tender, and then add to a blender or use an immersion blender and add in all those other flavorings. Blend, blend, blend till soup. I also made croutons, which I got to enjoy by dicing bread slices into medium squares, brushing one side with olive oil, and then baking. So everything was sort of set and forget. And it was yummy.
This looks really good. This also sounds like huge portions. Like, how many servings is this?
A lot. I think if we had 2 and then we put it in like our big container, that would have been, I don't know, 3 days of food for us.
Mm-hmm. I like the color. It looks very bright, and it looks like both in her photos and in yours that it's a very puree kind of split pea soup consistency. Is that right?
Yeah, you definitely puree everything till there's no chunks, and you do get that nice yellow color from basically your color of your vegetables, which are in that orange yellow spectrum, your nutritional yeast, your veggie broth. It all comes out looking like that cheesy color. She did equate it, you know, in the recipe to being like, man, I really want some like broccoli cheese soup, but they don't have any at the store. I'll figure out how to make my own. I would say probably not like an exact one-to-one of that, but still like a yummy, velvety, you know, quote, cheesy soup.
Yeah. Looks very tasty. And I like that the veggies are sautéed first. I would imagine that imparts some nice flavor to them.
Yeah, and especially if you're using like celery, you saute that even before you add in those other vegetables because you really have to like soften celery up before you soupify it. Technical term.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it was just a good way to be like, oh, I got all these vegetables, so I guess I'll just make soup then.
No, that's great. That, you know, a lot of food personalities and cooking shows talk about like, oh, and then you just have these leftovers, then you just throw them together. And I've always been sort of dubious about that. I'm just like, well, I don't really have leftovers that would throw together well like that. But I feel like this is a recipe where that would actually work.
Yeah, and I think Oshi Glows is pretty notorious with that too. There's another soup I often make of hers, which is just like, oh, and I have things left over, just make it into a soup. Because it literally in her recipe is just like, use this, this, and this. But at the end of the day, if you don't have exactly that, it's just 8 cups of whatever vegetables you have. And then she goes on to make suggestions of like, I wouldn't use a particularly like soft vegetable. Like, it's so easy to mix and match.
Nice.
You know, I love Oshi Glows.
Definitely.
All right, what do you have now? Oh my god, I'm so excited for this part.
I've gone over to the dark side.
Who are you?
I'm doing a TikTok trend.
Who are you? What have you done with Meg?
I know, I don't even recognize myself. So this isn't really a July theme, but it is topical, so I thought that I would do it. If you use TikTok at all, or Instagram actually, you've probably seen this trend. It is the upside down puff pastry trend. I kept seeing it all the time, and I was like, well, this seems like an easy recipe. Basically, what you do is that you take some puff pastry dough. You don't have to make it from scratch. You can just get it pre-made. And it's called upside down because what you do is you put parchment paper on a baking sheet, and then you put kind of any sort of combination of ingredients you want. But what a lot of people have been doing is like a drizzle of honey with some sort of fruit, like maybe sliced apples, maybe a slice of cheese on top of that, some prosciutto perhaps. And then you put your square of puff pastry over that. On top of it, you crimp down the edges. You do an egg wash over the back of the pastry, and then you pop it in the oven for about 15 to 18 minutes. And then you flip it over, and you have this beautiful little puff pastry snacky thing. You can make it savory, you can make it sweet. I think that this caught on as a trend because it's basically infinitely customizable. Whatever you want to make, you can. I decided to give this a try, and I went with fig, brie, and rosemary.
Oh my god.
I feel like it's a pretty classic flavor combo. So I had fig jam, a little slice of brie, and some fresh rosemary sprigs, also with a drizzle of olive oil and a little bit of salt and pepper. But I have to say, as easy and straightforward as this recipe is, I managed to mess it up somehow. So this is my fault. I got one of those cans, one of those, you know, those rolls of Pillsbury dough where you peel it open and it pops and it surprises you, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that I had bought puff pastry dough, but when I got it home and was preparing to make it, I apparently had picked up the crescent roll dough, which is not exactly the same thing. So you're not going to get the same flakes. You're not going to get the same rise as you would with puff pastry. But it's kind of the same. I could still make the recipe with it. So I went ahead and made the recipe. And I included a video. Did you watch the video, Justine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can hear me flip it over and then like laugh a little because the cheese, the brie, had completely disappeared in the oven. It had totally melted in the oven, and left behind these two little pieces of rind. They look like sad little apostrophes. So I had to laugh to myself. I was like, okay, this is not the intended effect, but also I should have figured that the brie would melt. I just didn't anticipate that it would have melted that much. But even though the brie melted and even though I had the wrong type of dough, it was still a tasty end result. It was easy. It was quick. You can have all these pre-made ingredients that you just throw together and pop in the oven for a little while. So I think overall the trend is a good one. It's not one of those like misleading, crazy ones. It's achievable. It's easy. And I would do it again. I would think I would maybe adjust so that not all the cheese would melt away. I don't know. I would try a different combo of ingredients.
Yeah, I was going to be like, so Meg, did you intend to use all ingredients that would dissolve?
The idea is that like the jam should dissolve, like you should get like this nice caramelization. A bunch of the recipes use the honey because it does give you this very golden, caramelized, crunchy top, or sort of like glazed look on the top of the puff pastry when you turn it over. So, I wasn't surprised that the jam did that. In fact, I kind of intended for it to do that. I have done other baked brie recipes where the brie just got like nice and melty. It got very soft, but it didn't entirely melt like it did here. So no, that the brie entirely melting was not anticipated nor desired, but it still tasted good because essentially all the cheese melted into the dough.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question. I'm like, how did it taste?
It's very good, very cheesy. There was some of the cheese that leaked out got nice and crunchy on the outside, so you get this sort of toasty cheese. I just think that fig and brie is one of those classic combos. I like the rosemary, you get this nice herbaceous quality to it. Mm-hmm. Some nice crunch from the flake sea salt. It tasted very good. Aesthetically, it didn't look so great. Especially with those little
sliced
brie
apples.
Yeah, I could have done sliced apples. That would have been good.
Is this something that your husband would eat?
I would make it for him without the fig jam because even jam is too much sweet for him because he's a crazy person.
Still trying to figure him out.
Yeah, so just maybe some extra olive oil for him.
There you go. Will you make this again?
I might because I bought 2 packages of the dough. So I still have a whole other package of dough to do something with. So perhaps I will experiment with it some more.
Yeah. As you said, there were many iterations of this all over TikTok.
Yes, I guess I'm a TikTok person now.
I can't believe.
Just kidding. I don't even have an account. I just saw them somehow.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone with you making a TikTok trend.
Yeah.
All right.
It's weird times on social media.
Yeah.
All right, what's our last thing on the menu?
So, last time I had mentioned a meal planning app that had come out by Ella Vegan. So since then, another vegan person I follow has come out with a meal planning app because apparently they're all the rage these days. Mm-hmm. This is by Pickup Limes, and it has some cool features. One called Nourish, where you can track that you're making balanced choices in your day in terms of nuts, fruits, grains, etc., without it being calorie centric. So just like Ella Vegan's app, you can put in your dietary restrictions and any foods you're avoiding, though Ella's had more choices, like I couldn't select oregano and other spices from Pickup Lime's exclusion list. So several of her recipes are now app only, and it was through this app that I found her recipe for coconut cauliflower tacos with mango slaw and avocado yogurt cream, and that sounded great to me.
Yum. Yeah.
All right. So what I did, because I was like, maybe this is a little difficult to make all at once, I made the mango slaw and avocado yogurt cream at lunchtime, and then the coconut cauliflower at dinner time. The mango slaw is 1 mango chopped, and then julienned carrots, shredded red and green cabbage, and fresh cilantro and lime juice all together. And then the cream is 2 avocados, yogurt, cilantro, lime, and salt all blended together. The coconut cauliflower is made with a dredging and then baking process. Your liquid is canned coconut milk mixed with a little bit of chickpea flour and spices. And then the dry is panko crumbs and shredded coconut. So dip, dredge, place on the baking sheet. You bake for 25 minutes or until golden, and then it's taco time. Yeah, I thought these were super yummy, delicious. Like, literally, I would, like, order this at a restaurant. I love the flavors. And everything was kind of a lot easier to make than I would have thought. It just took some time, you know, individually sort of dredging each, like, cauliflower floret. Nothing was difficult, but I would say that was the most timely part. I never made, like, a mango slaw before. Like, because we have tacos all the time, but I just generally make them, like, white people taco night.
There it is.
You know. But yeah, I love lime and citrus flavors. So yeah, I think everything coordinated very well. I'd never made coconut cauliflower before, so that was surprisingly easy. I'm already doing my verdict of would make again.
I was really excited by this. I saw your photo and I was like, oh, I want to hear more about this. This sounds like such an interesting recipe to me. Texturally, it sounds great. I love that you have these crispy panko cauliflower, kind of reminiscent of maybe coconut shrimp. You've got the very crispy, kind of meaty center of the recipe. And then also the crispy slaw and the nice creamy guacamole avocado crema. This sounds really lovely. This looks like a great recipe.
Yeah, I would say definitely, like, flavor-wise, you're getting, like, the crunch, the coconut, the lime, the sweetness of the mango, and then the avocado cream is more, because it's got that yogurt, it's got, like, that sour as well. So all of the taste buds.
And it looks like corn tortillas in your photo, is that right?
Yes, because I have to have them gluten-free.
Yes, indeed. But, you know, I assume if someone wanted to use flour tortillas, that'd probably be good too.
Yeah, go for it. I like corn better, though. I'm a corn tortilla gal.
I like flour, but I feel like corn would work better for this recipe.
It's more rustic that way. Yeah, and I feel like there wasn't, like, a wrong way to make them, you know, because everything just sort of gets piled on. I think the wrong way to make them would just be to, like, overload it too much, which you could easily do.
That's always the problem with tacos.
Yeah, I ate so many of these. Literally, like, I ate 4, and I was just like, more stuff.
I know you said that you need the meal planning app for this, but is there a way you could get the recipe to me?
Yes, I can.
Perfect.
Yes, but I'm sorry, you won't have the experience of, because, like, on the app too, she even, like, you can go, like, photo by photo, like, instructions. It's really nicely laid out, but, like, yeah, I can get that for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I checked, and, like, I dropped a link on her website, but literally she's just like, only available on my app now, and I'm like, oh, that's good for you. Also, if you are interested in the app, you can check our show notes for the link to her YouTube page where she shows the features of it. If it sounds like a thing for you, you know. Yeah. Like I said, I don't know why, but, like, everybody I follow is coming out with apps these days.
I guess it's the way to make money.
You want me to sing White People Taco Night again?
White People Taco Night. It does kind of segue into our media we've been consuming, because I do have more to say about the Try Guys coming up. But before then, Justine, what have you been consuming with your eye holes?
Is it cake?
Is it? Are we still in 2020?
It's, I think, one of Netflix's greatest shows. Is it cake? So season 2 just came out, like literally like just came out, and I've consumed it all. And it's just like season 1. It's still one of the best shows in terms of how much fun everybody on the screen is having. I feel like even though season 1 literally was sort of like a quarantine type show, like they developed it in that like everybody is there, you don't have like an interaction from like an audience or crew, like it's literally just the contestants and Mikey Day the host. I feel like they kept that same vibe even though people can interact more now if they like.
Right.
So really, nothing much has changed in terms from season 1 to season 2. Maybe a couple of the rules, but nothing major. But just, yeah, still a lot of talented people. I don't see, there's no Johnny Cakes coming out of this one, though. So.
He lost, though.
Yeah. But there's no, like, Johnny Cakes proxy.
Got it.
That's the great thing about season 1. We got Johnny Cakes out of it. So.
God bless Johnny Cakes.
But yeah, I really enjoy Mikey Day as the host because he's literally there being like, I want you to win. It's a cool, positive supporting show featuring lots of like cake art, which makes it so, I think, different from Nailed It. Even though I like Nailed It, the fact that they show you a cake on Nailed It to like recreate and just give them like a few hours, whereas on Is It Cake, they're making these cakes in 8 hours, you know? You can see that like how they really screw people over on Nailed It.
Totally.
Anyway, that's my rant about Is It Cake.
So you watched the whole season. Do you have a favorite cake from the season?
I will say that there were very cool techniques being displayed this season about getting the texture of leather and stitching. They use a technique called flocking.
Yes.
Where they would paint wafer paper the color that they wanted to have it be, and then like blend it up in like a spice blender so it becomes like powdery, and then dust it on top of the fondant to give it that texture.
Interesting. That's cool. So like flocking a Christmas tree like that?
I don't know what the term actually means. What does that mean, flocking a Christmas tree?
Flocking a Christmas tree would be like you spray this white substance on it that it looks like snow. So you get this sort of powdery snow texture on your Christmas tree branches.
Yes, but with brushing instead of spraying.
Got it. Very nice.
All right. Now let's hear about them Try Guys.
We mentioned last episode, no recipe road trip with the Try Guys. This was an evolution of one of their YouTube series called Without a Recipe. So the basic premise is that they are given a type of food to create without a recipe. So like a bagel or a muffin. And No Recipe Road Trip takes that concept and takes it on the road. This was a Food Network TV show, and now it is on HBO Max, which I think is just called Max. Now. It's all very confusing, but that's where I watched it. It's only 5 episodes. I watched the first 3, and I do intend to watch the rest, I think. It was interesting to see the Try Guys out of their element. And by out of their element, I mean not fully 100% in control of the production. And also having the Food Network audience playing to the Food Network audience. If you're familiar with the Try Guys brand or what their videos are, it's similar, but also very different at the same time. It's very family friendly, let's say, and in a way that makes it kind of watered down. The Try Guys humor has always been very like sophomoric, like a lot of sex jokes, a lot of like potty jokes, you know, and things like that. And to take that sort of humor and brand and then to sort of try to make it family friendly or something that appeals to the Food Network audience, it was like a little weird. It was a little bit of a disconnect. I was like, I know I'm watching the Try Guys because there they are on the screen, but at the same time it's so different than the brand that they've created. I don't know, it's interesting, like it works on the one hand, but on the other it totally doesn't. So it's like I feel like this could be recommended to Try Guy fans, but also maybe not Try Guide fans because it does feel like a different sort of brand when they're on Food Network.
Yeah.
But I do like how they have adapted it for a TV show. It starts out where they go to a restaurant and all four of the Try Guys make a dish without a recipe. And then the two top contenders in that contest move on to the second half of the episode where just the two of them go head to head in a showdown and create a different type of food. And then the winner of the 1v1, the final two showdown, the winner of that has the potential to have their recipe represented on the restaurant's menu. So I liked that format. I thought it was a fun twist on the format. It's also really funny to see the Try Guys with this like really high production value and a lot more cameras and like a lot more close-ups and things like that. And just the production also struck me as funny because it feels very Queer Eye. Like the episodes start with all four of them in their big black SUV with a license plate that says Try Guys instead of Fab Five. So there's all four of them. There's a dash cam pointed at them. They have an iPad and they're like, oh, up next is this restaurant. And it's like the Fab Five reading the profile of the hero, and it cuts to B-roll of the restaurant and little testimonials from the customers at the restaurant. It struck me as really funny. I was like, am I watching Queer Eye? it just felt like watching Queer Eye. But all that to say, I enjoyed watching it. I watched the first 3. I do think I will watch the rest, but it's weird. It's like a Try Guys uncanny valley if you're already familiar with Try Guys.
Yeah, that does sound like that. I will say, though, phoning it in is better.
I do like the phoning it in format better. I do think that's a better concept for a cooking challenge.
Yeah. Wait, can I go on a non-food Try Guide tangent?
Yes, please.
Did you watch Nimona?
I have not watched it yet. I did read a fair amount of the comic when the comic was coming out, so I am somewhat familiar, but no, I have not watched the movie yet.
All right. I will say, just watch it. Recommend. Yes,
Eugene Yilang, who is one of the Try Guys, is also one of the main voice cast members for Nimona.
Yes. Which at first I didn't realize that, and then when I did, it was all I could hear.
Yes.
I was like, that's Eugene!
Yes, it is. One last tangent about No Recipe Road Trip. There were a few Ned-related things that really aged like milk, which made me laugh a little bit. So on the Food Network show page for No Recipe Road Trip, it says, the Try Guys face off in kitchens with no recipes, no culinary training, and 100% commitment. Maybe not for Ned. Would not describe him as 100% committed. Also, one of the recipes he makes in the first episode is called Don't Be a Jerk Chicken. If only he had listened to himself. And he keeps saying how he loves bad ideas. Yes, clearly you do love bad ideas, Ned.
Oh, I can't believe he made that his catchphrase.
Of all the catchphrases to make your catchphrase, that was maybe the worst one.
Yeah. Ooh, that was just gonna bite him in the butt eventually, no matter what he did.
It's true.
All right, speaking of Uncanny Valley.
American versions of British things.
I'm halfway through the Great American Baking Show, which I just call American GBBO. And I'm like, oh, what do you want to watch today? You want to put on American GBBO? Because I can't remember the name of the show. This season is shorter than what we're used to, and it's out all at once, so you can overindulge easily, which is why I've put a pause for the moment. I do like it, but it also feels kind of off. Mm-hmm. Mostly because Ellie Kemper and Zach, what's-his-face, they just don't, like, vibe together. And it just feels like they're doing an impression of our beloved host.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the contestants are still nice and talented, and there's a lot of Chicagoans, weirdly. Like, 3 people of them are from Chicago. But yeah, it's like GBBO, but different.
We still have Prue and Paul.
Yes. which they are very nice to the Americans, which I was surprised. There's no snarky anything about
good.
any flavors. There's actually a lot more handshakes than, previous expected.
Is it still signature technical showstopper?
Yes. Like, literally, there's nothing changed, really. So that's why I'm like, it's the same, a little different.
But it's just fewer weeks. Does that mean it's fewer contestants as well?
I didn't even realize that it was fewer weeks until I went to go, paste this thing to you, because the Roku UI is terrible, and I can't even tell, which episode I'm on out of how many. I'm like, oh, there's only 6 episodes? I'm like, what?
We've reached the anti-advertisement part of our episode.
So yeah, that's why I need to go back and be like, were there less contestants? I'm so confused. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I will say if I had Roku, I would certainly be watching this, but I don't, so I haven't.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I watch it, I'm like, Meg would like this.
I know I would. I want to watch it.
So I feel a little bad watching it too.
It's okay. You can enjoy it for me.
I will. Yeah, I'm gonna get back to it. Like I said, I took a pause on it because you can just binge it so easily, but they're still hour episodes, so you could over binge,
Totally. Especially after all that cake, you gotta pace yourself.
Is it cake?
Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode then. For pictures and links to the recipes that we discussed today, head on over to our Substack. You can subscribe by going to podappetit.substack.com. We really encourage you to do so. It's a nice compliment to the show, and you can follow along with all the food we've been talking about. Big thanks to Margaret, one of our newest followers on Substack. She has given us a bunch of likes and comments and interacted with us there on Substack. Thank you, Margaret. You can also leave us comments and chat with us over there, so be sure to check us out at podappetit.substack.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us at pod_appetit. If you listen to your podcasts on YouTube, we are also there, so be sure to check us out. In our next episodes, we are going to be talking about August food themes. Coming up in August, it is National Peach Month, National Sandwich Month, Grab Some Nuts Day.
I put that in there.
We've circled around to the top of the episode. That's on August 3rd, National Rum Day, August 16th, Potato Day, August 19th, potatoes. And National Toasted Marshmallow Day on August 30th. So be sure to subscribe and tune in and hear all about it. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes.
Go to podappetitpodcast.com for all our episodes and links to everywhere you can find us online.
Also, be sure to subscribe to Pod Appétit Gourmet Takes on your favorite podcatcher.